Hello everyone, welcome back to Ansarkari. So taking up important topics from 7th of November. So since we know that yesterday also we discussed in detail about the several dimensions about Trump winning the US elections and Trump 2.0. So what all changes we can expect regarding several aspects, be it foreign policy or the economic policy. So here we see for example, one is the themes that he'll be or the areas that he'll be focusing more upon given his Trump 1.0 tenure that we saw. So one would be reducing the USA's trade deficit. So for that, he'll be putting like 60% tariff on all the imports from China. So this is also being stated that here India can enjoy certain advantage. Second would be across the board 10 to 20% tariffs on imports from other countries. And if his goals ahead with these tariffs, then we can expect trade retaliation or again the trade war between US and China. Then second would be inflation bringing down the prices. So for this, he will be like proposed higher tariffs. So this is going to be a counter thing if you propose higher tariffs. So it will lead to increase in the prices or as they say imported inflation somewhere. Third element or third area can be regarding the illegal immigration. And also during his first tenure, he was like started the work regarding the construction of a wall along the southern border. So illegal immigration from the Mexican border is another thing. Now, question is being raised whether this is going to be practical or not, but it would be because large scale deportation of illegal immigrants is another area through how like he proposes to deal with this issue. Fourth, when we're talking about the USA's foreign policy under Trump, so whether like there will be rejoicing in again when we're talking about Israel, so Benjamin Netanyahu's Israel and deep anxiety and apprehension in Ukraine can be the thing because it is expected that somewhere he might not support Ukraine in such a strong manner. So that is one aspect, and again, strong support to Israel. So, US will be more proactive in providing Israel with both the advanced weapons and a protective shield. So, Netanyahu may feel emboldened now, but the focus area should be again restoration of peace and then economic sanctions on Iran because even USA withdraw from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which was the nuclear deal with Iran. And then security, this is again going to be the sixth aspect, Indo-Pacific region and security and stability there. So again, countering China, targeting China would be the main focus area, and then broadening the scope and the objectives of Quad is as far as India's interest is also concerned here. And apart from this, particularly bilaterally India-US relations. So we'll be talking about deepening of our defense and technology relationship. So continuing with the momentum here and our bilateral relationship looks again more positive. So it was being stated that irrespective of who wins, India is going to enjoy certain, we can say benefits or the positives as far as our relationship is concerned. Again, continuing with the same theme, so we might expect greater American exceptionalism. So, again, reiterating his slogan, Make America Great Again, Make America Affordable Again. So, move towards more protectionist policies. During his first tenure, he withdrew from the Trans Pacific Partnership. He withdrew from, again, the Iran's nuclear deal, which is known as the JCPOA, challenged NATO and exited the Paris Climate Change Accord. So again, this is going to be one major thing, how dynamics are going to change as far as the climate change and mitigation and adaptation measures is concerned. So he is again the major denier of the common but differentiated responsibilities or do not acknowledge any event even like climate change that something like this exists or not. And then even again during his first tenure term, we saw that there were talks happening again with North Korea, and there was again the entity was achieved as far as between Israel and UAE is concerned during his first tenure. And funding of Ukraine. So this is another area where we might expect certain changes and protectionist policies as we've seen. Message of self-reliance, entrepreneurialism, and liberty is the thing. And then the relationship between Donald Trump and our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. So Howdy Modi was the campaign when there was this event which was there in USA. So the two leaders, they share strong bonds and relationships and a good friendship. So we might see convergence of our strategic civil and military interests between again the world's biggest two democracies. So strategic convergence on China and again the expansionist behavior, that is again Indo-Pacific thing which you're talking about. So muscle flexing is one keyword that is being used here. Then again carrying different exercises like bilateral, quadrilateral, multilateral exercises in the Indian Ocean region from the perspective of security cooperation, relevance of Quad, and again, as far as defense relationship is concerned, so particular deals have been mentioned here. For example, $3.5 billion for 24 MH-60 Romeo multi-mission naval helicopters, and then six AH-64E Apache attack helicopters with US. Then Namaste Trump event was hosted in Ahmedabad, and then UAE deal, it was finally came to fruition last month. So it is for 31 weaponized MQ-9B Predator drones. And here, like along with this, five or $20 million, the drone manufacturer General Atomics to set up an MRO facility in India. So we can say that since 2007, India and USA have signed the bilateral defense deals worth $25 billion since 2007. So we have a long-standing military supplier apart from US's Russia. So cutting edge equipments and technologies, the focus in like as far as aero engines is concerned. So these are again which are used in the Tejas Mark II fighters. 80% transfer of technology has been seen. Cooperation in again space sector, artificial intelligence and biotech, since these are the critical uh, emerging technologies that we are seeing. So these are our expectations. Like for example, we have NISAR, relationship between ISRO and NASA can be strengthened. The space partnership. So we might see again signing a joint statement to enhance collaboration, different projects, including the International Space Station initiatives, NASA satellites, as we see for Earth observation. Then Indian astronauts designates like Subhanshu Shukla and Prashant Nair, they are training in the US for the Gaganyaan space mission, also on the Axiom space mission. So this is for the particular Axiom space mission. They will go to the International Space Station. And then ISAT we've talked about. This was signed in January 2023. So broader tech cooperation was focused. Then institutional aspect, we were talking about collaboration. So US National Science Foundation and Indian scientific departments have expanded more research partnerships in multiple fields. So, for example, in sustainable energy, health, semiconductors, artificial intelligence, quantum computing. So science and tech. So we have like terming it to be mature and well established. And as we talk about the ethical usage here. So it is consensus driven. So again, likely impact in trade, oil and IT sector. So here, in this case, we talked about shift towards the protectionist policies. Washington took certain measures negatively, like India was removed from the generalized system of preferences, the GSP system. So more protectionism is going to reduce the competitiveness of India's exports, and India's major supplies or exports to US includes the textile sector, the pharmaceutical sectors. So India's exports to US in 2023-24, it was $77 billion with trade in favor of India. So India's exports are more than what we are importing from US. So again, that is why we're saying that he will side with more protectionist policies in order to reduce the trade deficit of US. In oil sector, Trump's policies can exert downward pressure on the oil prices. So that is a positive thing, how it can be beneficial for India. Higher tariffs on China could impact the global oil demand. So that's how the prices would be remaining suppressed. And India's fifth largest oil supplier is US. So lower prices are going to good, and we might see increase in share also. So we are the world's third largest consumer of crude. So heavy reliance on our imports, close to again 90%, makes the Indian economy vulnerable to the price volatility, and it also impacts our current account deficit, impacting the balance of payment. Then in IT sector, we talk about H-1B visas. So again, if he states make America great again, or the priority is given to the Americans, so this is one area of concern. So, for example, Indian IT sector is the biggest beneficiary of the H-1B visas recent years. So, on an average, this has jumped 80%, 18% during his first tenure from 2016 to 20, and it declined in Joe Biden's term. So, Indians accounted for 72% of the total H-1B approvals in 2023. So, that is the scale we can talk about. Then Supreme Court pulls up UP government for illegal demolition. So you can't act overnight. Here, it is regarding the procedure that needs to be followed during road widening and removal of encroachments. So Supreme Court stated that you can't come with bulldozers and demolish the constructions overnight. You can't give the families, you don't give the families time to vacate or job. Again, house properties होती हैं, you don't give the time to again move them to some safer location. So there needs to be certain instrumentality. You need to follow proper procedure. It cannot be arbitrary. So for that, there's a must that you need to issue the notice first and provide certain, we can say, time frame. And this was seen as a high-handed move by the Supreme Court. So misusing the bulldozers, yeah, both the bulldozer justice एक term आया था. So it is clear that demolition was completely high-handed and without the authority of law. So it becomes void. So given this, again, then further cases were taken into consideration, like bench was informed about 123 demolitions in the area concerned. So how can you start demolishing people's houses like that? It's complete lawlessness. NTPC, 50 years of powering infinite possibilities for India. So in this case, if we're talking about its important role towards green energy transition, providing sustainable power for all, and Viksit Bharat goal by 2047. So it is a major player in this sense, and be it like powering industries, uplifting communities, and touching people's life in different ways. It impacts the, can say, the living standards or the quality of life. So resilient infrastructure, trusted source of energy. So it is lighting every fourth bulb in the country. So it's a big player, empowering lives beyond energy through serving communities, protecting the environment, securing biodiversity for inclusive growth and sustainable growth, and then promoting again innovation and sustainability at its core. So people, planet, and prosperity approach is what drives NTPC towards net zero future by 2070. Then we here this article is talking about India-US relations during Trump 1.0, so 2016 to 2020, what major shifts that we saw. So in cooperation, defense, terrorism, and energy. In this, we saw that there was a promise that he delivered on these three key areas in 3 years during that term. So there was again this major event which was hosted in Ahmedabad, and there were several meetings between both the leaders of US and India. So there was robust support to India's again stance on terrorism. So US supported the designation of Jaish-e-Mohammed or the chief of Jaish-e-Mohammed, Masood Azhar, as a global terrorist by UNSC following the Pulwama attack of 2019, and also supported grey listing of Pakistan by the Financial Action Task Force. So this is one area of convergence. Then defense procurement that we've been talking about already, strategic trade authorization license exception. And apart from this, then when we're talking about the skirmishes with China, For example, in Galwan Valley. So there was intelligence sharing by US with India. And as far as LNG and importing of crude is concerned, so we saw that there was also launch of this bilateral strategic energy partnership in 2018. So it was zero, almost zero, making US India's sixth largest source of hydrocarbon imports presently. Then some challenges and major controversies. We talk about energy partnership again, and withdrawing from Iran and imposing sanctions on Iran was one of the challenges, because again, India imports a certain kind of crude oil from Iran from the perspective of energy security and diversifying our imports. So another thing which was very like was highlighted during his first tenure was the tariffs imposed on uh, Harley Davidson bikes that should be waived by India. These are known as the big bikes. So it is again, he's focusing more upon how to reduce USA's trade deficit ultimately. Single biggest controversy between India and US during Trump came when the president offered to mediate between New Delhi and Islamabad on the Kashmir issue. So, but again, here India's stand has always been that it needs to be resolved bilaterally between India and Pakistan, and we do not support any or we do not allow any kind of third party player intervening or mediating between us. So this was denied by India again, and China is a common rival. So a strategic threat, be it Indo-Pacific region or India sharing again land border with China. So Quad was the thing, or again then strategic bilateral and multilateral exercises in the Indian Ocean region. So India's human rights record, something that New Delhi appreciated. So had a non-commentative approach to India's human rights support. So power does not corrupt men. Fools, however, if they get into a position of power, corrupt the power instead. So this again, the George Bernard Shaw. So here we can talk about the leader of North Korea also. That the entire scenario fits into here. Like power does not corrupt the people. It depends upon your own intelligence and simply the common sense or your ideology, how you put that across and how you're actually implementing things and what is the manner of that. So all of that decides, and that is why it is stating that person is corrupting the power. It needs to be again following again the standard operating procedure or the international agreements that we have. Like even during Trump 1.0, we saw he withdrawing from several agreements, be it like the Iran civil nuclear deal was there, or the Trans-Pacific Partnership is there. So calling all of these things irrelevant is also not the right way of stating things. Then brace for the ride, again, it is based on the same thing. United States has chosen great disruption from coming back to power. So here again, it is being stated that the stage is set for massive disruption, or disruption. We can state that it is set for again massive reordering of things. So economic deregulation ho या फिर tax cuts which will be proposed, higher tariffs would be imposed, beggar thy neighbor trade policies, and how much dynamism all this will be produced, it remains to be seen.
And we can also say that as he is talking about leading America towards a golden age, so it is also possible that he will be increasing towards an isolationist policy. So उसकी वजह से जितनी भी relations हैं, they will be impacted with stricter H-1B visas, immigration reforms, independence in the energy sector. So it can be an increase towards an isolationist policy.
Yes, isolationist and more protectionist. So this is what we are even talking about, that in this re-globalized world or this era of re-globalization, we are seeing developed countries showing more protectionist tendencies. Here we have a timeline of different wars being fought by US under different US presidents. So from the beginning, like from 1974, it was the under the Gerald Ford, who was the president of US back then. There was Lebanese Civil War. Then Soviet Afghan War 1979. So Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan there. So leading to a decade-long conflict, and it was witnessed again under Trump 1.0 that he withdrew from Afghanistan. The US military forces withdrew from there. Then with Ronald Reagan 1981 to 89, there was Iran-Iraq war was there, instability investigation, Falklands War. So we should have a fair about idea about these different wars which are mentioned over here. So we need to see again the role that US has played in terms of establishing more peace in order. Specifically, we're talking about wars related to West Asia and Central Asian region. So most of them are centered around that region, or like in Congo also there was there Africa. So the role that now Donald Trump can play or US can play under his presidency, as far as Russia-Ukraine war is concerned and Israel-Hamas war is concerned, is to be seen whether he'll be changing that narrative or the history. Because here we seeing USA being party to different wars over there. So this is important topic from internal security perspective. So there's a 2-day conference being organized, particularly on anti-terror meet agenda. So role of social media and transnational organized crimes. These are the key words. So National Investigation Agency is one important institutional stakeholder in India for this. So it is stating clearly, these are very important keywords or the key areas that we can mention in the answers. So for example, organized crime is a key element of terror funding in Northeast India. So that is one of the mechanisms to provide terror financing. Using of encrypted applications, because then it is very difficult to trace them down or track them. Then linkages of the organized criminal gangs with the terrorism, the local gangs which are there, and social media regulation and their role in terror cases would be the things that would be the themes that would be discussed. So for example, we look at different incidents in India. So one was this Rameshwaram cafe blast recently, which was there. So how all that happened and how the accused evaded the arrest. This would be taken up. And the another thing is terror funding in Northeast India. So here we see rise of Hizbut Tahrir in India, especially in southern states also. So emerging modus operandi is like for supplying the arms and drugs from across the border is happening through drones. So organized crime syndicates. So these words, they need to be visible in even our doc or the answer. So left-wing extremism is again another thing, terror ecosystem which is operating in proximity or uniformity with them. Then it is also talking about now what are the solutions to counter these challenges. So we need to have the or discussing the importance of having a uniform anti-terror structure firstly, then coordination of counter-terrorism squads with the district after identifying terror hotspots in every police station. It's very important approach of government against the financing angle of terrorism. So here role of EDO, Prevention of Money Laundering Act, is important, and again the role of FATF. Then we have different kinds of database regarding again the different forms or the nature of terrorism. For example, we have national level terror database. It includes national automated fingerprint identification system, over 90 lakh fingerprint records. We have integrated monitoring of terrorism with data. National Integrated Database on Arrested Narco Offenders, and then National Database of Human Trafficking. So we have the data, and this would also help in reducing the cases in terms of, again, identifying the hotspots and which region is suffering from which kind of terrorism or crime, so that we can take adequate and timely action and also help us in terms of better preparedness. So again, the article regarding Donald Trump's win, so miracle moment for him personally also, because he was facing unprecedented odds. For example, a rare political comeback after two impeachments that he has faced, slew of criminal cases against him are there, and then unremitting hostility from the liberal elites. Now, he stated that he calls all of these, or the things that he put forward during his campaigning was with the common sense. He said, states that which emphasizes broader security, economic growth, traditional values, and peace through strength. So here we saw that recently we lost Sharda Sinha, who's a famous musician, and she popularized, or she took the region's music to national stage. So, for example, here this raga of separation in where we this is it's stating like सैयां निकाज गए मैं ना लड़ी थी ना जाने कौन सी खिड़की खुली थी. So this is the raga of separation example. Then Kabir's words of Nirgun Bhakti. So Kabir he was a Nirgun Bhakti saint. These words are not for the beloved, but a reference to the soul who's leaving the body. So this was recited by, again, um, I think one of our close associates. So importance of preservation and popularizing the regional music is important. Then don't rush to media on the seizure of radioactive material. So when it comes to the sensitive information, we need to be, again, very sensitive or sensible in terms of the future course of action. So this is the directive given by the Ministry of Home Affairs to states. So you need to exercise restraint and do due diligence before making any media statement about the seizures of the radioactive material, as unsubstantiated and incorrect reports, they malign India's image abroad as well. So it has, again, a global impact on India's image. So Department of Atomic Energy, and it was suspected radioactive material. So direction to all the chief secretaries of states, DGPs, police commissioners, MHS said concerns have been raised regarding instances where some state police officers and forces issued statements to media regarding seizure of radioactive material through laboratory tests nahi कराए गए, and that was before that it was stated, or the information was given in media. So Atomic Energy Regulatory Board is there in India. So it has asked all police in all states and UTs to first send the seizure to the Atomic Energy Regulatory Board before making things public. So there needs to be better synergy and communication between the police and the different institutional stakeholders for atomic energy or the radioactive safety is concerned. For example, again, there was certain news from Uttarakhand also arresting 5 people from Dehradun possessing boxes containing suspected radioactive material. So it is suspected. So PM Vidya Lakshmi for the collateral-free loans to the students. This is new scheme has been cleared. Infusion of equity of close to rupees 10,700 crores in the FCI. So Food Corporation of India gets approval. So this is another thing. So here this PM Vidya Lakshmi scheme, talk about more on this, makes students to get admission in quality higher education institutions eligible for a collateral free and guarantor free education loan. and outlay of rupees 3,600 crores has been made for this scheme for this period, and around 7 lakh fresh students they are expected to benefit from this interest subvention offered under the scheme. Then, so 75% credit guarantee would be provided by the central government for the loans up to rupees 7.5 lakh. And students with an annual family income of up to rupees 8 lakhs who are ineligible for the benefits under any other scheme, scholarship scheme, or subvention scheme would be eligible as beneficiaries under the PM Vidya Lakshmi scheme. So 3% interest subvention and loan up to rupees 10 lakh during the moratorium period would be provided, and it will be given to 1 lakh students every year. So we need to be clear with the features of the scheme. So this is in addition to an existing scheme, which is a central sector interest subsidy scheme. So it provides full interest subvention up to again rupees 10 lakh of loans, big boost to making education more accessible, more affordable, and even from the perspective of social justice, affordable accessibility and again availability. And then we can talk about equity angle also here. So step towards empowering Yuva Shakti youth and building a brighter future for our nation. So increased participation or increased enrollment in the higher education can be seen. And it would be quality higher education institutions. They will be determined by the NRF ranking. So if even all are not eligible under this. So students in 860 higher education institutions, they would be eligible. And the list will be updated based on the NIRF rankings each year. And then another thing was equity infusion in the Food Corporation of India by the center. So Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs has approved it. It is chaired by the Prime Minister. So bolstering the agriculture sector, ensuring the welfare of the farmers nationwide. So this equity infusion would be further used by FCI in terms of, for example, creating more regional centers or for creating like warehousing and cold storage facilities so as to again make the agricultural supply chain more resilient. So deadly Spain floods recently, and it was due to heavy downpours in eastern Spain. Almost it swept away almost everything in their path. With no time to react, people were trapped in vehicles, homes, and businesses. Many people have died because of this, close to 217. So, police, firefighters, soldiers continued to search more. So, it is again the impact of climate change. In the blink of an eye, water covered roads, railways, and everything around. So again, this is pointing towards the likely connections with the anthropogenic factors. And one is that warmer air holds and then it dumps more rain. So cloudburst or localized or hyper localized or torrential rainfall is what we see. Climate scientists and meteorologists said immediate cause of flooding is called a cut off lower pressure storm system that migrated from an unusually wavy and stalled jet stream. So things are working in an unusual manner, and being again a island country also somewhere coastal, it has a long coastline. Spain's Mediterranean coast is used to autumn storms that can cause flooding. Extreme weather events came after Spain battled with prolonged droughts. So it witnessed droughts in 2022-23 and now witnessing floods and also heat waves also. So it calls towards again having a common understanding coming together to fight climate change. And it was again earlier stated that the pace with which the world is moving or the countries are moving towards mitigating climate change, we might fail to curb the temperature rise till 2 degrees Celsius, which was mentioned again under the Paris Agreement of 2015. So Supreme Court states you need sanction under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act to prosecute public servants. So This is under the Code of Criminal Procedure, Section 19 mandates prior sanction is needed from the government to take cognizance of an offense against public servants will apply to PMLA Act also. So be it like person who is or was a judge or magistrate or a public servant not removable from his office, say by or with the sanction the government is accused of any offence alleged to have been committed by him acting or purporting to act in the discharge of his official duty, court shall take cognizance of such offence except with the previous sanction. So here like different the case is mentioned over here. So Okla ecotourism event, no birds in sight, even with binoculars. So red faces, obviously, if we are not able to spot even a bird using binoculars. And that too at the this Okla ecotourism event. So we see missing biodiversity because of again the we can say rising pollution, be it air pollution or water pollution, fragmentation of the livelihood, the fragmentation of the habitat of the birds, or even like we talk about the polluted wetland somewhere, coral reefs dying, and then deforestation is happening. So more arid conditions being generated. So all of that is contributing to the loss of biodiversity. So we have this Convention on Biological Diversity, 1992. So projects like ecotourism, they are again to promote the conservation of the biodiversity. But what about the biodiversity that we are losing or that we have lost? So due to gross mismanagement, wetland hair goes dry every year. So how can we expect even the migratory birds or the species that we are seeing, they're declining in number? So catastrophic consequences for the entire ecosystem is dependent on water. The first waterfall arrived for the winter, so they greeted the bird. They are greeted by dry habitat at Okla. So these are the reasons. So these are the names of the migratory birds like common teal, northern shoveler, northern pintail, gadwal, common pochard, and bar-headed geese. So they start reaching the sanctuary by October. So transformation of the Okla Bird Sanctuary into an entertainment venue under the label of ecotourism by the Forest Division has severely impacted the ecotourism. So by merely stating or categorizing this to be an ecotourism spot, that needs to be followed in spirit as well. So effective implementation of these changes is important. So talking about again India-US relations. So you can just go through. So it is from 2020, 2024, latest, the Flagrant podcast. He's a friend of mine. He's great. So different like time periods when Donald Trump is talking about Narendra Modi ji and in a reciprocal manner we could talk about. Why Kamala Harris lost? American left liberal is neither left, it is nor liberal anymore. And who is to blame Joe Biden for staying around too long? Kamala Harris. So two crucial constituencies, college students and the Muslim Americans were alienated by this because of the refusal or the worse, the inability to control the mass killings in Gaza because somewhere USA is supporting Israel here. So that is one factor. Then second, Harris did not set the agenda. So she was seen to be more soft, more again it was like also stated that she's a scripted leader. So we see that Donald Trump is more aggressive, is more liberal, more free in terms of putting across his ideas or his ideology or his vision across. Third is the unadulterated pro Democrat bias of a large section of the US media. likely it hurt the party in the polls. So as we talk about, role of media is very important here. And this also we talk that media should remain limited to its objective or the discourse and not intervene in politics. And finally, most importantly, Harris' camp lacked a grand narrative. So on free speech, Republicans, they have the party on the back foot, successfully making cancel culture an issue. Trumponomics, so economics, and talked in detail about this, specifically between India and US. So international investments or FDI is concerned, as far as India is concerned, and particularly here when we're talking about the US fiscal situation. So we are seeing US liabilities are increasing, touching 60%. Sorry, it is 60 trillions of dollars. US assets, so there's huge gap between their liability and assets. So this is the deficit. And net would always it will obviously fall if the liabilities is greater than assets and the gap is increasing with time. So this is the international concern. USA again, how it will be managing its debt, because there are concerns related to the debt ceiling hitting, like the debt hitting or crossing the debt ceiling of 100%. Inflation impact, Fed stance. So this we are seeing that we now very soon expect the rate cut cycle to begin. Green card and demand outlook. So promise to curb both the legal and illegal immigrants discussed in detail. Elon Musk likely rise under his tenure. So new administration would have repercussions for India. Uh, if Elon Musk is again taken under the new administration. So we are waiting for that. So lobbying for Musk in other areas such as satellite spectrum allocation or space launches could also get more vocal across global markets, including India. And the China stimulus, this we are seeing. So Fed meet and China stimulus. So if we are already seeing that the particularly the capital market or the investors, they were looking for that Trump should win. So this is a strong signal for US market, not for India, because it will lead to capital outflow from India. And China stimulus, we are already seeing the heavy impact on India's capital market because of the Chinese stimulus. Again, capital outflow from India. So pressure on rupee increases. It is further depreciating. It has crossed $1 equal to 84 rupees mark already. So along with this, we see 6 Indian Americans, they win seats in US House during the recent elections. So for example, Suhas Subramaniam becomes the first from the community to be elected from the East Coast, and he joins the Samosa caucus, with all 5 existing members from the community getting re-elected. So in this case, we can talk about the rise and the important role of Indian diaspora. RNA editing is promising to go where DNA editing cannot. So in this case, again, we see that DNA editing makes permanent changes to a person's genome because it is double stranded and it can lead to irreversible errors. So if error happens, so it becomes very, very difficult or almost impossible to correct that error. When it comes to DNA editing, in case of RNA editing, it is more safer because it is making temporary changes because it is single stranded, and RNA also keeps on evolving somehow. So it allows the effects to fade with time. So in clinic, this means the doctor can stop the therapy if problem is arising and mitigate the long-term harmful impacts, particularly in the case of the RNA editing. And RNA interference is one important function. So when where the small RNA molecules keeps a gene from being expressed has been essential for the success of CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing. And so important aspect है था difference between RNA and DNA editing, permanent and temporary nature, and the effectiveness and the safety of again using CRISPR-Cas9. So, like for example, ABCA4 retinopathy. So mutations and thing that is in RNA editing. So it is a nascent stage. Looking into more developments around that. So it needs to begin both the cases, they need to be followed in a ethical manner, safer manner. So impact of America first on India. So IT firms are bullish on higher spending due to the tax cuts. So and this is one positive, and then restrictive H-1B visa norms not seen as a major hindrance as of now. So IT sector is positive, then deal likely to blunt the tariff threats. So one positive here is that if 60% tariffs would be imposed upon the Chinese imports, there India can enjoy certain more increased share in the American market. But however, it is being stated that uh, imposing of 10 to 20% of more tariffs on across all the different players, import players in USA, will have a negative consequence for our trade competitiveness. So shifting course on antitrust and stop the Google break. Likely dial back some of the antitrust policies जो लेके आई गई pursued under the administration of Joe Biden and might embolden more the big tech companies. So it is expected to continue the cases against the big techs, several of which began during his first term. Tough on China, abortion rights, again, strong dollar or weakening rupee. Bearish impact on petroleum prices, this we have seen. Expected trade war between China and US to escalate further. These are the expectations we are talking about, golden age of America. So coming to RBI's stance regarding the rate cut. So no immediate rate cut as of now. So Indian economy has got the strength of a tiger. RBI's job is to provide agility, which is another key attribute of the animal. So we are talking about again a performance and how we have swayed through different challenges, even emerging from the external sector, showcases the resilience of Indian economy. And that is why we are in no hurry to start the rate cut cycle, because still inflation is not at our target level of 4%. And if we start with the rate cut cycle, it might further lead or it might further increase the inflation. Definitely, growth is important aspect. Looking at maintaining the growth momentum is crucial for uh, again lowering the rates, but that is going to have somewhere major impact. So this is always the trade-off that we talk about, or the challenge as again the RBI governor faces as part of formulating the monetary policy. So we are looking into again the nature of credit cycle also changing, how again the uncollateralized loans, all of that is changing, trend is and the pattern is changing. So that is being closely monitored by RBI as a regulator. And then role of CBDC, central bank digital currency. The future lies in this. So again, here also RBI is in no hurry to have a national launch of this. So we are still undergoing, the pilot project is still undergoing. We are witnessing how it is impacting and what more changes are needed. So for example, a new use cases are emerging like Odisha's transfer of cash support to beneficiaries under a scheme, or some corporates transferring launch vouchers to the employee wallets under the pilot project. Concerns are the recent signs of weakening urban spending. And October inflation figures are expected to remain high, giving the reason to stay cautious for the MPC. So positives outweigh the negatives in Indian economy. So role of banks in averting the climate risk or mitigating the climate change and the impacts is very important. As far as again creating the resilient banking ecosystem or the financial ecosystem in India is concerned. So, for example, the success of RBI's recent initiative of climate risk information system, it shall hinge on the addressing several policy imperatives. So, in this case, we can talk about when we're talking about the bank and the credit lending exercises. So, here climate change and how it will be impacting, for example, the business of the people should be one of the major factors in order to determine the credit worthiness of the person or the borrower. So that is one we can say important, why it is important to be included by banks. So this is the thing majorly being talked, climate risk information system. So information again the same. The effectiveness of the system critically depend on quality, reliability of the data that will be now provided under this. It should be unbiased, it should be transparent, it should be accurate, and it should be real time. Then accuracy of the data, robust methodologies of the data collection, and then processing of the data and verification that needs to be established for this. And this would be forming a critical part of the existing risk management system of the banks. And initiative would be another initiative important here would be necessitate Indian banks to develop the capacity to interpret and act on the climate data. So capacity building, having again the skilled labor force here, the skilled youth can participate in terms of data analytics. And third would be central bank must provide clear guidelines on how to effectively utilize this data in forward-looking climate scenario modeling. So in terms of forecasting also, this will play important role. So for example, the force on climate related financial disclosures and IFRS S2 framework. So helping better in aligning with the global expectations, aiding in seamless adoption of climate informed decision making. This is important keyword. Then government RBI must leverage this for data policy, the data for policy applications with climate vulnerable regions. For example, incentives for the climate resilient infrastructure should be given and mitigate the risk in cyclone prone areas like carbon countercyclical capital buffer. It could fortify the financial system by requiring banks to increase equity capital during the periods of high carbon intensive credit exposure. And then it could also inadvertently encourage a tick box approach to climate risk management, or better planning, or we are also better informed about what measures we are taking, how we are generating better results in terms of the measures being taken. So we need to nudge that into the banking entire ecosystem and it's working. So new draft space law is ready and attracting more of foreign investments is one of the themes. So Indian National Space Promotions and Authorization Center, which is in space. So the chairman is Pawan Goenka, sir. So he's stating it could make the foreign investments more easier in the nascent sector, that is the space sector. So ease of doing business can be promoted here, ease of compliance can be increased, and again, taking it beyond the $9 billion current level as far as investment is concerned. So role of startups can be increased, more of again private companies as far as when it comes to even like for example, providing us the components is concerned, manufacturing the components. So Department of Space expected to be thrown open for industry stakeholders consultation, public consultation also. So it is being stated it is completely different from the earlier version of it. So for example, in US also we are seeing they are developing a US space force. So is that really needed in India or what else? Like for example, having a space station of our own, is that desirable or not? What measures are needed? So Indian Space Research Organization, Scientific Organization, Department of Space is a ministerial body, so more collaboration between them would be helping us. And lawmaking in that context. So shot in the arm expected for electronics manufacturing. This is again one positive fallout that we can expect for India. Increase in demand of electronics goods in the US market as far as India is concerned because of higher imports being higher tariffs being imposed on the Chinese electronics imports by the US to the tune of 60% of tariffs. So reshaping India's trade ties with the US. So it would impact other areas would be auto and the pharma sector and then the textile sector. So Bihar, how it can escape its sub-Saharan India status. So economic plan is needed for that, can seize the demographic dividend opportunity that is there and also mitigate the migration pressure at the same time spur rapid output growth. So even as a hub for example, we can look at from the perspective of manufacturing hub or industrial hub. Then role of finance commission and the former planning commission divergence across the states has increased, might have assumed extreme proportions as stated by 15th Finance Commission. Then we talk about the inequality aspect, India's top 1% and 22% income and 40% of all the wealth being held. This is another area of concern, and gaps between rural urban areas, between skilled and unskilled workers is widening. Low per capita income and then exceptionally low per capita income is a concern. For example, you're talking about the state of Bihar. So we need well-meaning policies. India freed equalization levy, for example, introduced in 1952, aimed to promote even industrial development by subsidizing the long-distance transport, for example, for iron and steel industry. And this contributed to further divergence, however. Then Green Revolution, it majorly helped the North Indian states like Punjab and Haryana. So Bihar accounts for 9% of India's population, yet it has less than 2% of its GDP contributions. So its annual per capita income is close to rupees 60,000, which is the lowest in the country, and it is compared to the country of Liberia. So poverty is one major challenge there. So we talk about NBF, the National Family Health Survey 5 data. So India's highest fertility rate is there, much higher than the replacement rate of 2.1. So the fertility rate is close to, we can say, almost 3. Then labor force survey showcases unemployment rate in Bihar is at 13%, which is thrice the national average of 4%. This is another challenge. It lags other states. So even we see the demands being made by the Bihar administration of giving Bihar a special status. So planning and efficient utilization of resources, taking the leverage of existing advantages, for example, demographic dividend in Bihar or the human capital growth needs to be promoted on larger scale. So that's all for the day. Thank you so much for joining us on Ansarkari and stay tuned for further detailed discussions in the upcoming sessions.